Welcome to Vermont Liberty Network as we continue to join together with Vermonters of various backgrounds and skill sets from all over our state, and really different political backgrounds as well, because we all need the common foundation of our rule of law and the Constitution that has always bound this country together. On May 1st, we have an event at the State House again. May 1st, we call it May Day on May Day, because it's a May Day for the Constitution. It's being destroyed, and it's not funny at all, but I hope it'll help people remember when it is and why we have to call out an SOS. And I don't mean the Secretary of State, but I do mean save our state. We're going to host this day to talk about COVID this time. We haven't done this, and there are reasons why, but this is an event that will discuss how COVID has been used, in addition to other factors, but COVID in particularly, to completely ignore, if not trample on, our basic fundamental rights. And our governor's doing it, our legislature's doing it, and they're doing it at many different stages, as I'll discuss right here. Consider these legal issues. Masks, as opposed to whether they work or not, legally, does the government have the power to compel you to wear them? And what if it does cause health effects that are deleterious? But is it enforceable? And we're seeing businesses close for this. That would be another area. Shutting down businesses. This has constituted a taking of people's property rights. Sometimes they've spent decades building their businesses and they're being destroyed. There's no due process to appeal, and it's extremely unequal in application. This has been extraordinarily arbitrary or capricious. That means unconstitutional. On several levels, this has been unconstitutional, shutting down our businesses. Likewise, mandatory vaccines, as I wrote an article some time ago, it would be unconstitutional to mandate vaccines. And I think the government knows this, so they're trying to coerce us with their new vaccine COVID card into getting one, and so we can go visit our loved ones or travel or go on vacation. And it seems global, and yet getting the COVID vaccination doesn't protect anyone else but myself. So why in the world would you discriminate against people who choose not to elect to stick a needle in their arm at public expense? We don't want to spend your money. Let us save you money. What about school closings? What about the impact on our children of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation up fourfold? 1 in 4, I beg your pardon, 1 in 4, according to the CDC, 1 in 4 young people have contemplated suicide in the last year. We've created a pretty horrible, anxiety-filled world, and we're telling young children to be terrified, depriving them of some of the most important times in their lives for joy and sports and activities and social interaction and learning. And they've got masks on, and they're being cloistered away to protect the old people, because the young people are at very, very, very low risk for this disease. Is that constitutional to do that? It seems to be completely out of balance with the demonstrable level of risk. What about voting violations? What about mail-in voting fraud, which we're told, poo-poo, that doesn't exist? Of course it exists. The most wholesale voting fraud in Vermont is out-of-state college students voting here in large numbers, which Jim Kondo says is just fine under Supreme Court decisions that I think only he interprets that way. And if those were that way, then we need to change it, because it's not the way it works in America. The rule of law counts. The rule of trusting the voting system counts. And now we have a whole new mail-in system with no guarantees. It's as if they want fraud, or do they want us to not trust the system? Because we're told, oh, no, that never happens. Of course it does. We all know it happens. It's just a matter of how much. So when you say it doesn't happen, we trust it even less. Everything's being torn apart. Free speech. How much can free speech be compromised? Now, we've seen my free speech be compromised when I question the Black Lives Matter ideology, not whether we care for black people. But Steve Merrill is a person who was asking very important and pointed factual questions of Health Commissioner Levine and Phil Scott. And he was then banned from the governor's press conferences because they didn't want him asking the hard questions about why we have to sacrifice all of our liberties and our property rights and our assembly rights and our right to assembly. It's a big one. It's been destroyed because of COVID. Oh, unless you're protesting for BLM, then you get a pass. This has been an absurd disgrace for Vermonters. And if we don't stand up to protect our liberties against these infringements, we will be crushed. It's already happening. And if we do stand up, we will remind them of our Constitution. I'm reminded of Horton Hears a Who. Everybody's on Dr. Seuss now. We are here, we are here, we are here. Recently, the governor had to bow to let out-of-state students get COVID vaccines. Why? Because they made a big stink and a fuss, helped by the liberal press. How about we go down to the State House on May 1st and show up in large enough numbers that they have to hear Horton holding up the who's? And what we say is we point to our Constitution, we point to the legal precedents that protect us from these things, and we say they are here, they are here. Constitution, here it is. Geez, wouldn't that annoy you? We will enforce it. If they don't abide by the law, why are we? Why should we? Okay, that's we the people, right? We are being abused by our leaders, Vermonters. Look at the facts. Come on the 1st and listen to Steve Merrill. He will be speaking because he's very well informed about the COVID stuff. But we're not going to be talking so much about the scientific facts. We're going to be talking about the legal facts, how your rights are being swept away and your property and your future and your children's future being torched in the name of a disease with no substantiation with medical evidence, certainly with this COVID card. So I certainly won't be giving up my God-given American rights based on this tripe, okay? Because that tripe, it's garbage. It's a translation. If the rule of law is to be abandoned by our governor and legislature, then we will enforce it as we the people. I will defy this law. And if I hadn't received a vaccine, again, I'd pause right there. And if I got vaccinated, because I'm not going to, I would burn this vaccine card like a draft card. Remember the days of the draft when we opposed war? Maybe we should oppose the enslavement and subjugation of all of us forever, because that's what we're talking about. We really are. If any of my rights is compromised, I demand the government demonstrate constitutional justification. And on that, it has the scientific burden to demonstrate that anyone is protected by discriminating against those who elect not to get an injection. You with me? If you don't get a vaccination, you're not putting anyone else at risk. So why would they coerce you by depriving you of your rights if you didn't comply? This is a deliberate government coercion with no justification in health or safety purposes. It's to be defied boldly and vehemently. And perhaps it's time we defy all of these blatant violations in our laws. There are a lot going on right now. They don't follow the law, and we the people will not follow unconstitutional laws by thugs. And if, in fact, we are under a moral obligation to rebel against such things, that is our tradition. And if we don't now, we won't get another chance. Join us on May 1st at the State House to stand up for these liberties, learn about your rights so that you can point to them and wave them around and tell people why this will not be tolerated. We will stand for the United States Constitution. We are the Vermont Liberty Network. We ask you to come, get involved, donate. The money will be used to spread these messages, and there will be more articles and other things out there to show you how ridiculous this is. And the only reason they're getting away with it is because we let them, and we are not letting them anymore. May 1st, May Day, for our Constitution on May Day at noon on the State House steps, where we will be heard. Thank you very much for joining us here in Vermont.